saying that the recording is in progress. So, okay, I'm glad to see that there's 51 of us here already. That is quite amazing. So let's give it 10 more seconds, because when I'm gonna start really talking, I'm not that good at multitasking, so I'm not gonna see who's joining in the meeting, and I'm probably not gonna be able to admit them at that point. So yeah, I'd say 10 seconds have passed. And okay, so hello and welcome to the first lecture in the course that's called How to Start Up. And yeah, who am I? My name is Paul Silinch, and I've been the one who's been writing to you, and both in emails and on Slack as well. And yes, I'm the one who's also going to be hosting all of these lectures, giving the intros and etc., and admitting all the people that are still joining. And yeah, and so I'm going to be your main contact person throughout these 6 lectures, these 8 weeks, when we are going to be having this course. As I've mentioned previously elsewhere, then the main our main communication platform is going to be Slack. So please, if you haven't yet registered there, do that right after this lecture. That's your first and foremost task you should do. But yeah, who am I? I mean, I'm going to be the person who's going to be helping you out. But other than that, I've been connected with the startup ecosystem, I'd say, for 3 years already. And in that time, I've moved around quite a lot. I've started in TechHub Riga, and that's why I'm also here again. And then I've been a part of TechChill twice. I've worked with Health on building and creating hackathons and helping build it accelerator, etc. And yeah, for 3 years I've been in this ecosystem, and I've got to tell you, it's quite a cool place to be. You meet a lot of amazing people, and that's why I am super happy to see how many is it, 54 of you joining in today. So that means yeah, 54 new amazing persons joining the ecosystem. So yeah, but before we go into the details, one thing I'd like to say is thanks to the Investment and Development Agency of Latvia, as they are our partners in this program. Both TechHub Riga and LIA want to bring about the next wave of founders and give them the best possible skill set to begin with. So that's why we created this course, and that's why, once more, thank you to the Investment and Development Agency of Latvia. But yeah, what's about to come? What's about to happen? I mean, like I said, I've sent you most of the information in emails, and you can find it on Slack, and definitely check out the guidelines. But yeah, ahead of us are 8 weeks, 6 lectures, they're all gonna cover the startup life cycle. And we are gonna have 6 or even more different and highly skilled mentors that are gonna, well, during the lectures, and sometimes even outside of them, if you'll have any extra questions, they will guide you through that life cycle. So basically, starting from today, you will get to learn what is a startup, what does it do, how does it go about doing that, and hopefully by the end of these weeks, you will be able to create one on your own. But yeah, also, during these weeks, you will have to work hard as well. It's not going to be just lectures and you know, sitting and listening and then forgetting about it for the whole week and then just jumping in on the next Monday. There will be homeworks that you will have to do. In order to finish the course, you kind of must do them. And apart from that, you also have to work in teams. I know that there's a lot of people who prefer working alone, but in this course, we do want you to team up. The minimal requirement is 2 persons per team. The maximum is 5 persons. So this is I really can't stress this enough. You must team up. And that's why, please, if you haven't yet, then join the Slack channel. And there's a specific channel there called Team Formation. Post your idea there. Doesn't matter if it's super raw, still post it there. You will develop the idea throughout these weeks. But right now, you need to find the teammates you want to work with. And if you don't have an idea, but you're looking for a team to join, then just go over to Slack, to that channel, and look through the ideas there, and either write in a thread or write a direct message to the person who posted the idea there. But it is important to team up, and you do have a deadline to do that. And that is this Friday by 6 o'clock GMT +3. So please do that. Of course, if there is no luck in teaming up, I will help out with that. And if you have any questions, reach out to me on Slack or email or phone. But it would be best if you do it yourself, as afterwards you will have to work with this team together. So you kind of have to take the lead on this one. But I am here to assist you. I am here to help you. And yeah, so that's just something to keep in mind. I will return to this at the end of the lecture. So let's not go too deep about into it. But yeah, once more, I'd like to mention that read the guidelines if there are any uncertainties regarding this course, because in the guidelines, you should be able to find most of the information. But if there's something you cannot find there, once again, feel free to ask. And really any questions that come in mind, it doesn't matter whether it's a very intelligent or cool question, or it's a silly one. It really doesn't matter, because we are here to learn. We are here to develop ourselves. So any question, we really want to answer them and give answers to them. And that is both here in the lectures. Feel free to ask any question that you have, and there on Slack or in email. So yeah, any question you have, feel free to ask them. And yeah, and don't waste the opportunity, because other times you might not get that opportunity to ask these questions. And
Sorry,
yeah,
I
please.
have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Regarding the teaming up,
Yeah.
is it like I should team up with the people who is right now in this course, or should I team up or find some team members by myself?
It would be preferable if you teamed up with the people that are here in the course. So once more, as I mentioned, just using the Slack workspace we have, find the teammates and yeah, and team up with them.
Oh, okay.
Because we kind of want to give you all the opportunity to learn how it is to work as a team in developing a startup. And so yeah, this is the one way we can bring that about.
Because for my idea, which I have already made a team from 4 people, but they are not participating in this course, so that's why.
Okay, maybe we can return to this question after the lecture.
Okay.
And yeah, and then we can definitely discuss it further.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. So the next part, what I wanted to say was, without further ado, I think we are ready to begin the first lecture, which will be an intro into startups, what they are, how do they function, and how do you create one. And for that, I'd like to welcome Guntis Čoders, CEO and co-founder of Walmoo, Kurzeme region manager at Accenture Baltics, as well as technology entrepreneurship bachelor program director at the Business Academy. So thank you, Guntis, for joining us. And well, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. I will ask you to give me this permission to share then, please. Hi, everyone. Guntis Čoders. This is how to start up understanding startup. That's the first lecture, and it's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, having me here, and I'm happy to see so many people interested in startups and overall. I'll tell you a bit later. Just a second. So quickly sharing. Later on during the presentation, what I've done myself, I'll have this short introduction, and then I thought, and at the end, depending on how much time we'll have, I'll go very quickly through the story of my startup, which is still sort of alive, but I call this section of how not to start up, as I probably did all of the mistakes that there can be. But that, as you say, right? Either you get money, either you get experience. So I can call myself an experienced entrepreneur. So, okay, Guntis Čoders, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Coders, it's like a nickname, like a username, and then an IT world and startups world. And many people do ask me if I'm a programmer, but I'm not. It's like just coincidence, English version of my surname, Čoders. So quick, really, I have done much more than this, but been in IT since 2008, and I've been part of like different kind of projects. All of them makes sense, and it's really important part of the story. But basically, the Farco, that was one small company. In 2009-10, we were building social games for Draugi MLV. We were one of the first virtual and now augmented reality developers in Latvia. We even sold one solution to Tele2, but that was too early in the market, and that's actually another topic, right? Regarding technologies, is it too early? Is it too late? Then I was helping to organize a festival event, musical festival. Why I'm mentioning it, it's not IT related directly, but this is where I found my investors. They were looking for a VIP table, and they gave me money for meet and greet. Basically, they wanted additional services, and at the end we had this discussion. We created this relationship. I was mentioning my startup, and word by word, and they were ready to invest. So if you ask me where to get investor, like anywhere, basically VIP tables area or club, or investor is anyone who has more money than you, right? Then I was leading some seminars back 2012 or something regarding different IT topics. Then I was part of the US, not based, but owned a startup. We were based in Latvia, VoIP app in 2013 or 14 as well. For 1 year, that was an awesome experience. Basically, we had a 1 year to prepare before it launched. And it was sold before even we launched it. Then it was Kickstarting campaign. Then there was cryptocurrency, charity, hobby type project. Then I was leading smart street lighting startup, and then I moved on all of these roles. Let's say in between, in parallel, I had my own startup all the time, but I chose, instead of having my own salary, to put all the investments in for developers to run for the longer, have a longer run this road. So I did a lot of freelancing on the side, and at the end, one of the last, I would say, before existing roles was I was leading business incubator in Ventspils. That was when I moved. It was 3 or 4 years ago to Ventspils, and that's kind of makes sense at the point when you are CEO. You basically sort of know everything, but you're not an expert in any of those things. I know marketing, I know finances, I know team build, HR, but I'm not an expert. So it was quite hard, but it fit the role, because the experience I had was quite large, and I could help many other young companies. And that was the moment I understood how good is to teach others, as you can practice like 100 times the same thing, right? Positioning, branding, product market fit, and that stuff. So it really helps when you help others and teach others. It helps you to understand much better. So, and now, as mentioned earlier, the main 2 roles is Accenture and Business Academy, which is a quick promotion, right? This is what we built, and from the old experience we took from Finland, this business education model, and improved it with technologies and another launch university. So everything we missed in education, existing education, we put it there. Okay, and two quotes before we continue. It's why I'm showing those, because so you sort of explains a little bit more my approach and how I see the world. And one of those would be never give up. And you will see later on how long was the journey, and it's still sort of, it was there just because we never gave up. Even how bad the situation looks, right? We can find way out of it. And the other one, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that's another sort of related to the previous ones. You can't achieve big goals unless you start with yourself believing in those, right? So if you think you won't be able to do it, probably you won't be able to do it at all. You have to start to believe. And that's regardless of the situation. Is it the startup or career or any personal related case? Okay, that was the short intro about myself. And then regarding the topics for today, so the startup definition and the workflow, let's say how it operates, what it is, how it's different from a traditional company. We'll take a small preview in that one. then and what it takes to start a startup, right? At least what I see, what I believe in. Then we'll take a look at startup life cycles, what type of what cycles the startup goes through, and what is important in each of those. Then we'll take a look at the revenue models and business models, which are quite related, and funding topic, which is all of those actually would take at least, I would say, I prefer workshops when we actually work the whole day, 3 or 4 hours at least, right? But today we'll be just really touch the surface, and maybe the best could be just to figure out the relations, the patterns between different kind of startup terms, overall. But I'll have some references to frameworks or YouTube videos or something else, so you can take a look more deeply into those. Regarding this, and about the format, I'll ask. Okay, I'll have to switch on the chat so I can see you writing something. But I would prefer if you do ask questions, right? You can stop me anytime. So you don't have to wait until maybe it's not even important afterwards. So you can ask me anytime, and I'll be asking you questions as well. I would be happy if you actually turn on an audio and raise hand. Do you know how to raise hand here in Zoom? Right, you can practice that one. So you do not speak altogether. But I'll ask questions now. I'll be happy that you get involved, right? So the startup itself is. So there are many definitions. None of them is probably the ultimate truth, but we will take a look at the 3 of those. And one would be the startup is an entrepreneurial venture, which is typically a newly emerged, so basically launched recently. It's fast-growing business that aims to meet marketplace need by developing or offering an innovative product, process, or service. That would be one of those from Wikipedia. Another one is a bit simpler, right? So startup is a company or project undertaken by an entrepreneur to seek, develop, and validate a scalable business model. And we'll talk about scalability later on, but we will probably spend, it's my personal trauma, professional trauma regarding the validation of the product. I believe that's the main reason I failed with my startup. So I've been researching and practicing quite a lot of that one. So that's something I can share a lot. And another one would be a human institution designed to deliver a new product or service under condition of extreme uncertainty, which is quite important regarding this uncertainty. As startups, at least they should, or it's not a must, but it's recommended that you work on something. One of the habits or the Bibles you should read probably from this Eric Rice is from 0 to 1, where it's explained quite well how you can innovate horizontally. It's a bit more of an improvement of existing products or niche and industries. How you can innovate vertically. It's creating new market, right? And when you create new markets, probably there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknown things. And this is probably one of the main differences. Even though there's a term in nowadays VUCA world, there's a lot of things changing, right, related to each other. So you have any kind of company has to adjust in a dynamic environment, anyways. But startups, compared to that one, are even in more uncertain environment when you probably don't know what you do not know. There's a lot of things you just don't know what you don't know. And then you have to have a little bit of different skills or how to navigate through that one, right? So how you do not panic and how to just go step by step further. And we will discuss going those steps, how it's done and why it's important. Many small steps, because the ones who learn the fastest, those win. And if we talk about startups, scale-ups, and small businesses, then and you could compare, anyways, the large business or traditional business. So if you have the access of high growth ambition and very scalable business models, right? And scalability, it's basically when you can repeat something you do in a higher volumes. If you're serving 10 customers, you have an option to serve 10,000, 10 million, and 100 million and billion. So that's sort of being able to scale. It's, in this case, it was an example of actually being able to serve customers, but in any type of way, you are able to scale, right? You have enough resources, you have enough people or talent, you have the technology and everything else, so you can basically scale very, very fast. And you will hear probably during this courses quite often, scale, scale, scale. At one point, it's super important. But it's as important to at least to think about it at the very beginning, because at one point, everyone will be asking you to scale. And if you haven't thought about it, you might have a problem, right? Same as investors. Investors, you're looking at the point probably the first time or the second time you are looking for the money, it might be because of this, you have to scale. You found the market, you are earning some money and you want to do the same stuff, the same thing, just 100,000 times faster and more. So would be the top. And the bottom would be low growth ambitions, non-scalable business, right? Something that's harder to scale one by one. For example, at least until now, more or less, consulting was not very easy to scale, right? There's a limited amount of resources or how many people you can serve one consultant. Now with technologies and AIs and machine learning, so you can probably automate and scale that part of consulting as well. But that would be one of the, or haircutting, right? If you do it one by one person, there's some limitations, right? You can do like 10 people a day, but you need another person to have more and so on. So it's a bit harder. And then on the right side would be market validated and business model is known. So it's quite a certain environment, you know what you're doing, and this is unvalidated business models. No one knows if it's working. So the starter would be on top left, more or less. There's a potential for being able to scale, but there's still a lot of things you do not know, right? And on the right side, and you're scaling up. So you've found this, you have validated the market and the business model, and it still has a lot of potential of scaling. And on the top, on bottom would be, there's a known market. There's a market, people are buying one or another service or product, but it's quite hard to scale. So that could be the main difference, one of many differences and one of many tries of defining what it started. One of the first startups that I read, it's hard to tell, right, which is the first or something, but one of the first, like officially, when people were starting to use the term, but not 1911, it wasn't used the term startup, but IBM was founded in that year, and as it was part of this Silicon Valley movement, let's say 1970s, and it was called Silicon Valley because of semiconductors. At that time, mainly they were manufacturing semiconductors, and the main sort of material was silicon, so Silicon Valley. And in combination of that one, around the university, Harvard University, and existing companies like IBM, in this dot-com bubble, around that time, they started to found new companies named startups. So around 90s, it was Silicon Valley. Then more or less, there were already some startups, but the term itself started a bit later. And I don't know if you know this dot-com bubble or crisis, but basically it was related to the internet was more and more available, and many people and companies understood that there's a huge opportunity to reach many people through internet. So they started to build like internet-based companies, and they really were growing fast, and of course they could sell very well, to the investors. So investors invested, and the more you get investment, the higher the value of the company grows further. So everyone else wants to join, like similar as the cryptocurrencies now, right? If everybody is investing, it's worth more, and everyone else looking from a side, and you have this like sort of FOMO, fears of missing out. So you're joining the journey, let's say, even though it might not be rational, but everybody is doing it, so you're doing it as well. And that's a different story when one go into the details. But of course, it didn't have enough foundation of this high value of the companies and high growth, as they weren't earning as much money as they were promising and so on. So basically, a little bit of over expectations. Have you heard about this saying of, there was I don't know the original one, but it's related to technologies now. There people do overestimate what our technologies are capable of, like in 2 or 3 years. They have a lot of expectations, right? AI or something, but they underestimate what the technology is able to deliver in 10 years. There's a buzz, then everybody sort of forgets, and then in 10 years there's a lot of stuff going on that people couldn't even think of. So there's something similar here, where our expectations for the short term, but actually it didn't have any foundation, but afterwards it's good, like sort of coming back. At least it's my belief regarding the startups. I know it's more or less about money, right? About the business. And this is one of my learnings for the last years, that when I launched, I'm still sort of very cause-oriented person. I really like, it sounds used very often, too often, make a world a better place, but I actually believed in that when we launched, and we wanted to improve some stuff, and the money was secondary. We knew that we need some money for programmers and so on, but we weren't focusing too much on actually getting money on a daily basis, and that was another reason why we failed, right? But I believe that still you have to have this sort of belief and vision and sort of attitude of why not, right? If you, and it's, I still see, I'm working in a university where the people are older, let's say more not more rational, but when you're not too open to new innovations and a lot of changes, people naturally do not like changes because changes are risky, right? It's something you do not know. And I see that I'm working quite differently. I don't care why it's not just I don't care, but it's not so important what are the obstacles and what are the reasons, what can go wrong and so on, unless I know it's the right thing to do. So I do whatever it takes to achieve that. And many people do look at that, oh, I know that can go wrong and that can go wrong, and many people have tried, so it's not worth doing it. I believe you have to drop that attitude. Of course, you have to balance, right, between the rationale and just a future vision or something, but still. So many people do see things and say, why we should do that or why do, but I dream things and I say, why not? So I believe that should be one of the sort of top 5 or top 10 attitudes for the startup founders, for sure. You have to be, you have to have this curiosity, right? What do you think? What is, and I sort of answered already, but what do you think? What is needed to keep going, to start and not stop? As there are a lot of problems, a lot of uncertainty, probably a lot of people resisting systems or market competitors. The right people, right? Yeah, you need right people, passion, right? This vision, a combination of people, yeah, a combination of people, the team, with passion and with vision, if you really sort of visualize, and that's, if I would have to, sometimes you have this exercise, right? Tell your superpower. An idea, a plan, and you have to believe in all of those things, right? As you'll have a lot of challenges which might tell you, oh, this is wrong, you're not doing the right thing. And even people, not just the situations, but actually people telling you that it's bullshit, but you just keep going. So you have to have your own vision. And as I mentioned, if I will have to tell my superpower, probably one of those would be, I can come up with an idea and actually I can visualize so, I don't know, perfectly, then I just believe in it because it's real. It's almost real for me. So I can really go for it and sort of gather the team, explain them. And so they started believing that as well. That's quite important, especially for the founder who is looking for the team afterwards. That will be one of the skills, very important skills in the future. On the way, right? On the journey. Yeah, that's the vision, I would say. Now you have to stick to your beliefs, right? Once again, everything is in balance, so you don't have to be like really don't listen to anyone and just go. But you have to consider. You have to sit down and think what others people what they say, but you still sort of. You have to believe, right? You don't stop believing. I don't know if it takes like 7 minutes. I'm not sure if we should. Okay, let's try to like just 2 minutes out of it, right? Spend for this one. Can you hear the sound?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. I see this is quite good video which shows an example of how you believe in something, and there are a lot of reasons not to believe, and you will see basically. I'm not sure if you will look at the end, but anyways, just listen for a while. I'll stop.
You know, there are American heroes who don't like this idea. Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight and the way that you're developing it, and I wonder what you think of that.
I was very sad to see that, because those guys are, yeah, you know, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. You know, I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here, and I think that would change their mind.
They inspired you to do this, didn't they?
Yes.
And to see them casting stones in your direction.
It's difficult.
Did you expect them to cheer you on?
Certainly hoping they would.
What are you trying to prove to them?
What I'm trying to do is to make a significant difference in spaceflight and help make spaceflight accessible to almost anyone.
One of the most difficult choices I have ever faced in life was in 2008. I think I had maybe $30 million left, or $30 or $40 million left in 2008. I had two choices. I could put it all into one company, and then the other company would definitely die, or split it between the two companies. But if I split it between the two companies, then both might die. And you know, when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating something, or building something, it's like a child. And so it's like, which one am I going to let one starve to death? I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I split the money between the two. Fortunately, thank goodness, they both came through.
What was your biggest failure, and how did it change you?
Well, there's a ton of failures along the way, that's for sure. Like, so as I said, for SpaceX, the first 3 launches failed. And we're just barely able to scrape together enough parts and money to do the 4th launch. If that 4th launch had failed, we would have been dead. So multiple failures along the way. I tried very hard to get the right expertise in for SpaceX. I tried hard to find a great chief engineer for the rocket, but the good chief engineers wouldn't join, and the bad ones, well, there was no point in hiring them. So I ended up being chief engineer of the rocket. So if I could have found somebody better, then we would have maybe had less than 3 failures.
That third failure in a row, did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up. So many people tried to talk me out of starting a rocket company. It was crazy. One good friend of mine collected a whole series of videos of rockets blowing up and made me watch those. He just didn't want me to lose all my money. We're doing these things that seem unlikely to succeed, and we've been fortunate, and at least thus far they have succeeded. Now is the time to take risk. You don't have kids. As you get older, your obligations increase. And once you have a family, you start taking risk not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out. So now is the time to do that before you have those obligations. So I would encourage you to take risks now. Do something bold. You won't regret it.
How did you figure you were going to start a car company and be successful at it?
Well, I didn't really think Tesla would be successful. I thought we would most likely fail. But I thought that we at least could address the false perception that people had that an electric car had to be ugly and slow and boring like a golf cart.
But you say you didn't expect the company to be successful, then why try?
If something's important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure.
Or how do you think about making a decision when everyone tells you this is a crazy idea? Or where do you get the internal strength to do that?
Well, first of all, I'd say I actually think I feel fear quite strongly. So it's not as though I just have the absence of fear. I feel it quite strongly. But there are just times when something is important enough, you believe in it enough, that you do it in spite of the fear. I think about what technology solution is necessary in order to achieve the particular goal, and then try to make as much progress in that direction as possible. I think being a multi-planet species and being out there among the stars is important for the long-term survival of humanity, and that's one reason.
Okay, sorry for stopping it, but you can watch it later on, right? As we don't want too much spend time on videos, but I believe this is one of those like sort of combination of the mix of those things I mentioned earlier, and I probably couldn't say better than this quite video editing, which includes things I mentioned, this belief, and I just keep going, and people might tell you to stop and it's crazy and so on, and you know if it will be successful or not. So, and I get this question frequently, which idea to pick, what kind of idea to pick. Now I would say similarly, maybe it wasn't said here, but if you have to pick like 5 years from now, there's still a chance you won't have too much money, that it's a not the unicorn or successful, right? As we know, this type of success, if in 5 years you do not have money still, but still, you consider 2 or whatever many ideas. If in 5 years you still do not have too much money, which of those ideas will make you more happy? As it's a high chance you'll fail, right? But still, it will make you feel good, at least what you did. So I would say if you have to pick one or another, of course there's a business underneath, where's the bigger opportunity and where's the market is closer or better or whatever. But if you're still very close, very similar, you do not reach to pick, then it looks like for Elon at least, there's some stuff super important for him, and he just wants to do it regardless, right? What happens. And those kind of people are not just motivators for other entrepreneurs, but this is the belief, what the things you believe in, those are the ones which will help you to gather the team and actually sort of attract the customers and want to be part of your journey. And I won't click the other sorry, I did it not on purpose. But the other video, Start With Why, probably you've heard that one as well, but this is sort of continues the idea of if you can explain why you're doing yourself, that will help you not only sell to the customers why your company is doing this, but actually help with gathering the founders and the employees and increase the morale and attract investors as they invest in why are you doing this, right? And it helps if we go to the mission statement. If you heard that one, I would really suggest that would be one of the first things you do before you start. So you actually understand what is your goal, what is your mission, why do you exist, why the company or organization, whatever exists. And it's not just so you have a clear moral, less clear goal yourself. It will help to explain others what are you doing, and it will, as I said, that will be very good motivation for others to join or support your why, the mission. Why are you doing this? Except you might exclude the earning money, right, part, but everything else you do, why you're doing, why you're starting it. What else? It will help you to have set the sort of values and rules in the company. That's another important reason. As a very good example was a guy from, I was in an accelerator, business accelerator in Slovenia, and there was a guy from EA Sports, Electronic Arts, and they regarding this culture thing and values, right? He said they had interviews, everyone, all employees, with all new potential candidates, let's say, everyone. So that was how important they believed that how important is the culture. So everyone is comfortable with working with everyone, right? And it's quite hard to lose that one. And they did it up to 50 employees, first 50 employees. So they said the last, from 40 to 50, those employees, they had quite many people to talk to. So it took like 2 weeks or even a month to have an interview with everyone. And if everyone said, yeah, this is a person I would like to work with, only then they were sort of getting the job. Okay, we won't click that one. Innovations. Probably you've heard innovations like all around the place. People say you have to innovate, and corporations and large companies have to innovate, and government have to innovate. And startups probably, and I'll answer that one. Yeah, and startups, it's like it's almost a it's not an almost a must, it's a must. And what do you think? What is innovation? I will have one super short definition of it, but you might have your own version. And while you're writing down or telling me loud out, what about, I will try to answer, what about running several ideas in parallel? Is that an okay, or that means there is no enough focus? Elon Musk is doing somehow that one, but probably that's a different story. You have resources, and you basically, he doesn't have a lot of problems that like first timers have. But for the first time, I would say one should be the one, yeah, trying to really scale. The rest should hobby probably. So in a new solution, new idea, something new. New idea. Okay, a new solution, new idea, new solution to already existing problem. Was a Facebook an innovation? I believe they created the problem themselves and actually solved it. People didn't know they have the problem, the need. Okay, that wasn't a problem, it was a need of communication and notifications and all that stuff. New way to meet some needs. Okay. Looking at the existing thing from a different angle. I hope I have just one. Okay, yeah, I have just one. The first one, invention. Is it are those two different? It's the same. How invention is different from innovation. Invention is something new, right? It's new idea. It's new solution to existing problem. Yes, adds value to the customer. Exactly. So invention is something new, but innovation is when you actually add value. You can create value with innovation. Invention, sorry. As you have quite a lot of inventions in our research labs and universities, but they do not, very often they do not create value at this point. Either they can't sell or the solution itself is not ready for the market, whatever, many reasons, right? But innovation is only when the new thing actually creates a value and people can use it and they're ready to pay for it. So that's the super short version. I really like this one. So think, yeah, just not new, but actually creates value. If we move to lean, have you heard about lean? Probably yes, one or another way, lean muscle. But lean methodology, it's one sort of, it's both philosophy and discipline, which at its core increases the access of information to ensure responsible decision-making in the service of creating customer value. Once again, more or less, you'll hear that one very often as well. Value, value, value. Only when you have value, someone will be ready to pay for it. Yeah, so you have to focus on the value, not the product, but the value it delivers. Another one would be the core idea of the lean approach, let's say, is to maximize customer value while minimizing the waste. And the waste, I'll have it on the next slide, what type of waste you can have. Simply, lean means creating more value for customers with fewer resources. And sounds quite logical, right? And for startups, it's like crucial. It's crucial because you do not have too much resources. You might say you have time, but actually you don't. If the large company which has money, they have as much time, but they have much more resources. On time, you have the same as everyone else. So you have even less than large companies. Everything you have is just this belief and willingness and ability to risk, maybe taking risks. Large companies do not like to take risks, but I'll tell that later. Maybe why they're not taking risks and why they're afraid of that, because they're doing it wrong mostly. And lean. So yeah, it means, so it started in manufacturing by Toyota, and they started to like look at each process separately and try to figure out how to improve this specific step of the manufacturing, step by step, and questioning and 5 whys. Maybe you've heard that one. When you see the problem, you try to answer like 5 times, maybe less. Why this is a problem, or what's causing this problem. That's very often people do solve not the problem itself, like that, not the source of the problem, but things what happen afterwards. And there was a very good this example of there was a white building in States, and the birds were pooping on it a lot. They thought, okay, let's try different, like, and it costs quite a lot to wash it away. And then they tried to change the material of this washing powder or chemicals, whatever. So it's cleaning faster, and it stays clean for longer, but it didn't work. Then they thought, okay, we have to get away those birds. They put a net on top of it, but still birds somehow got through that and kept pooping on the building. So it looked bad. Basically, there were a few more steps what they tried, but at the very end, if they would ask like 5 times why, what's the root cause, there was a lake next, basically open water next, close to the building. If there's a water, there are insects, and then if there are insects, then there are birds. So, and insects were attracted by the lights on the building. So all they had to do, they were turning off the lights during the night on the evenings. And so that was the solution. They just turned off the lights. They actually saved money, electricity, and birds weren't doing the stuff they did before. Okay, so that's one of the examples how you're looking for the root cause. You do not, you try, you might actually solve the outcome of it as well, but that might be a short term, and someone who will be solving the root cause will be the winner. It's quite frequently it's even easier. Sometimes it's not so easy. So you solve the 1 or 3rd level of the outcomes, but still it's just good to know, right? That you should be looking for the root cause, why this is happening, why they have this kind of problem. So, but one of those benefits would be eliminate waste. So basically anything that does not deliver value to the customer, you're not doing it. You eliminate that one. Very often it's just nice to have a thing. So you can improve, you are improving the processes. It helps you to improve the processes because you can manage complexity. You can looking at the processes like step by step, and usually those are easier to solve than looking at the whole thing together. You can manage changes faster, right? If something happens, something's broken, you can adjust because you know how this process, whatever it is, manufacturing, software development, sales, right? Or organizational processes. And the combination, that one increases the productivity. So spend more time on valuable stuff, and save time and reduce costs. And as I mentioned earlier, so if you do this the right way, so you have less risks, and by having low costs and not spending too much time on actually changing or improving something, you start not to be afraid of the innovations. And large companies, mostly they are afraid of innovations, or very often, because they believe that they have an experience, probably even, right? That new projects are risky and costly and time consuming and resource consuming. But that's very often is because they're not doing it right way. They just, in big companies, like you have to have an idea, someone has to take responsibility, then you have to find money. They say, yeah, we need 5 people, half a year or 1 year, we build something, we launch, let's see. And then they work for a half a year or 1 year or even more, they launch, and it's a high risk you can fail, right? And so they see as a new things as very costly. But if you do it the right way, you do it like small steps, learning step by step, and do it lean, it's not so scary, and it's not so costly, not time consuming and resource consuming. So this is something when we can learn to do better than large companies. And this is why large companies are buying startups, as they are. It's easier to buy people who are ready to risk than having themselves risking. And it's related to data-driven decision making. We heard that combination of words. Basically, you base your decisions on actual data, and you try to find the different ways how to experiment, how to have experiments, and how to have feedback by experimenting. And then only then you have make next decision, next step by step, small experiments, which where you can approve or decline this hypothesis you had at the beginning. Right? We believe that this will be cool, or this will be evaluated by those people. Before building it, there's a lot of stuff you should do before actually starting to build. But we'll discuss about MVP a bit later, and you'll have a separate course for that. In more detail later on, but I'll touch the surface. So you can get a lot of valuable insights. You can continue your growth, right? As I said, if you do step-by-step small experiments, then you can adjust and continually improve the product, even existing product. At the end, you will get improved program outcomes, optimized operations, and prediction of the future. That's something. If you're basing your decisions on actual decisions, so you can start predicting much better than when you have one hypothesis. We think this is working, or this is the reality, and then you base another next decision on the previous consumptions, but teņēmums. How was it?
Assumption?
Assumption, not consumption, assumptions. Yeah, thank you. On the assumptions you had before, so every next decision is even actually worse or wrong because you didn't find a way to approve. And then you can get actual actionable insights, valuable and actionable insights, what to do next. This decision making, it's really awesome topic, and that was one of my favorite when I was in the business accelerator. We had a crazy guy lecturer for that one, leading the workshops, and every time he came in, he said, who's your ideal customer? So everybody's trying to explain. You have shops that are having these retail shops, blah blah blah. He says, no, doesn't sound like ideal customer. So prove me that those are your ideal customers. So how can you actually prove it? You create this hypothesis. I believe in this. Then you figure out how the experiment will go. And one of the first experiments we'll get this is actually interviews, right? Going and talking to people. And then every time we meet in a week, he says, okay, who's your ideal customer? And you have to be able to prove it. Like, how did it actually prove? Not just, I think, and you have to be very, very specific. And then you build, like, each decision you make, you have to have data. And in marketing, probably it's like a natural thing. No one knows how the marketing campaign will go, like no one. All you can do is actually just experiment. That's why you have this A/B testing and similar those tools where you just try and see. You just launch the campaign. This is working, this is not working. Okay, we drop this one, we continue with this one, we can improve, we can make it more detailed, whatever, but basically you just experiment. You do not know. If you'll try to sit and figure out everything, probably it take a lot of time. It will be wrong assumptions again, right? But this try to get the sort of approval or proof that things I believe in, that they're actually, it's truth. And this is the moment where you're at the very beginning, this is problem solution fit. You try to define the problem definition. Oh, I didn't include it here, but you'll have, I believe you have this product development in another course as well. So it's super important to being able to define the problem. What is the actual problem we are solving? And is it, I think it's a problem, or actually there are customers and people who are feeling and having this problem and they're solving and ready to pay for that one. And then you find a solution which will solve the problem the best ever way. Very often people do start with the solution itself. Oh, how cool would it be to have this kind of app? Then you sort of build it, and then you try to find who else is interested in your app. But I would suggest, if you do not have a problem you want to solve, if you do not have the product itself ready, especially in development, don't try to focus on the product. Try to focus on the problem. Don't get in love into the product, and then you try to sell it to someone. Okay, I have this awesome tool. I have to find someone who else really wants that one. You focus on the problem, and then you sit down and think, like, what would be the best ever way to solve? if you have your own product ready, then you'll be subjective. You'll tell yourself, well, probably this is the best way, because right, you've built it for a while. As Alan said, it's your child in a way. So if you don't have it, postpone it for as long as you can, until you really understand what is the problem, if it's there, for whom it's there, and only then sit down and figure out which is the best ever way. Not just a good enough way, but best ever way. Is it? Later you can figure out how easy it's to build it, but just have this brainstorming, right? What could be, what if, right? What if we had this and this and this? Let's figure out if we can do it and how we can do it. That's the ideation part. And finding the ideal customer, that would be during this journey or exercise, let's say, this will help you to define the problem, find the problem, and have this sort of confirmation of from the market. Yes, there's a problem. This is how it sounds, and so on. So this is something, as I said, this is my personal trauma, and I actually even built some sort of methodology or wireframe for it, how to identify the ideal customer. And ideal customer, why it's a priority? It's on the screen already. But anyways, why it's super important to find this ideal customer? What do you think? I would say it's the top two, top three, top two things, top one to do. Ideal customer, maybe what it is. It's the one who actually has the problem. And it's huge. I'll explain a bit later. But it's priority, as I said, because you do not have too much resources and even time. You think, yeah, my time is, I can do it on evenings or whatever. But at one point, in majority cases, at one point, you get tired of actually trying. If there's no traction, no feedback from the market, oh my God, it's awesome what you're doing. At one point, you just get tired and you will drop it. So you still time you have to consider as a resource is limited, right? You do not have, you're working probably, and you're doing it in the evenings, so it's an alternative cost. You might be doing something else, going out with your friends, doing your hobbies, reading, playing games, working out or something. So it still costs you something. And at one point you'll start to questioning yourself that, okay, how far am I, right? So if you'll find this ideal customer, that will help you to focus the resources you have, the 24 hours and let's say 2,000 euros, for example. So how to split that time that I have and the resources I have. And I suggest to focus on an ideal customer. It's ideal customer. It's not just one person. It's like a segment. We'll talk about. So ideal customer is easy to attract. Yes, it would be easier to attract. Might be not easy still. And here I will talk about this ideal customer. Everything is sort of the most. Like the best customer or the biggest problem, or he feels the most. It's not that others do not feel that one or do not evaluate that one, but we are looking for the ones the most, right? And here as well, it could be the easiest of all others to attract. It doesn't mean it's easy, but the easiest. Ideal customer is ready to pay you fast. Either it's fast, either it's more. Yeah, we'll discuss that one later as well. And they are more or less loyal. At the beginning, you do not have any customers, let's say, but they might become the most loyal. Why? Because you help them the best way ever, right? If it's a big problem, you help them the best way ever. So the money they pay, that's a different topic. The pricing, it's when the price is what is the amount of money or whatever value person is ready to pay for the product, right? That's the price, right? the customer gives you the money and he feels he got more than he gave away. So that's the right value price ratio. Whatever it costs, it might cost $1 million, but if the person feels he got more out of it, so that's the right price. It's a bit less than the value he gets. At least he feels he gets. That's another story for the marketing and positioning and branding, right? How Apple is increasing the price because people do feel somehow better. They're paying more, but they feel better. So they're actually adding a price by making people feel somehow special one or another way, being part of something. But that's positioning and branding topic. So, and you focused, to understand the amount of market and who is your product's target. Amount of market this ideal customer segment is not, it's not the whole market. I'll have it on the next slide. It's not the target audience. It's actually specific ideal customer segment. It's a bit different. It's like the first, let's say, the first customer. The ideal would be, the first has to be ideal, let's say. Everyone else will be will come later. And this is super important, not only because of those things mentioned earlier reasons, but that will be something that investors will be looking at you or anyone else judging, evaluating. If you actually they can see if you understand your customer, right? There's this specific audience, they have this specific problem. I met them, I talked to them, and I see that's happening. You try avoiding in pitches for whom it's like for everyone, or for the whole shops, right? Or all internet users. That's bullshit. It's not truth. Even Google is not for everyone, right? Everyone's not using Google. Not everyone's not using Facebook, even though it's huge. So even they, especially at the beginning, they weren't pitching that this is for everyone. Yeah, you might show the vision for the future, but don't focus too much on that one. Investors want to see the potential, but the more important is for them to see that you understand for whom you are actually solving the problem. What is the problem, right? And then how you are solving the best way ever. Why no one else can solve the same way or be better than you. Customers who still come back to your product and spend money. Yeah, so if you solve the problem, right, then they're happy, they're coming back. Help develop, produce service that fits the best. And to me, next development story. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure if it was the ideal customer, but that's sort of one of ways you can say that's a good customer, the ones who's engaged, right? And probably the ideal customers. It doesn't mean it's 100%. They will be the most engaged. They'll give you feedback the most, but that would be a good fit. If the ideal customer, the first customer, is the one who's ready to share all the experience. You might get some, I don't know, government customer, and you help them, but they're like, oh, okay, I don't have time for that, giving you. But it would be stupid, right? If you want to improve the product even more, they should give you feedback. Okay, so why it's important? Because they feel the problem the most, so they will evaluate your product, your service the most. If they understand the problem the best or the biggest, they have this problem they feel the most. Your product solve the problem the best way ever. And that leads to that they will value the most, again, this specific niche the most. Everyone else, yes, as well, but they're like 10 out of 10, right? You're looking for those. They're ready to pay more because they feel the problem, they have the problem and you're solving it the best way ever. So they will be super happy. They're ready to pay a bit less than they get, but still, if they feel they get a lot, they are ready to pay more, right? And they are the most satisfied, and that leads to those things we mentioned, right? They're happy, they're giving you feedback, they're recommending to other people, and so on, so on, so on. So this is why it's super important to find that first group of customers who will be super happy. And they'll tell anyone else to join. As important, I would suggest, we actually did it. As we saw, we had some customers like bad, or the worst customers. At that point, you can identify, and then whatever you do, you figure out this decision how you avoid them. Either when you having Facebook ads or Google ads or any other advertising, you try to avoid or skip, exclude. If you have defined well enough, you can exclude some interests or any other parameters. So the worst customers won't see your ads, or they go to your website, you might show one or another sentence or argument which would make those worst customers go away. And by worst, I mean, there are some customers who are happy and easy to work with, and there are some customers, the hard ones. You might probably have met them, right? They still paid you money, they still sort of helping them, but it was one or another way hard. Either they, I don't know, paying, do not pay, or paying too long, or they do not give you a feedback, or they are just hard. They don't like one or another thing all the time. They want some improvements. They're asking too much updates, or basically it depends. But there are some type of customers you wouldn't like to work with, right? You wouldn't like to have those, like most of your customers, all of them like that. So it's quite useful to have define. Okay, these are the people or the group of people we wouldn't like to work, and figure out the ways to avoid them, at least at one point. Right? Focus on those who are easy to work with. So this ideal segment, there are not many people. There might be not many customers, but they're very important. So the target audience would be, let's say, families. Then the niche you're focusing on are families with kids, but the ideal segment would look like more of a. It's one of those examples, right? You know that it's mom. It's not a dad, but it's mom. Better than dad, but both. But ideal would be mom, 2 kids, wife, whatever. We had, for example, this planner for families. We did this interview in incubator, and it turns out, of course, the more kids you have, the more problems you have with the planning. So it's easier to work with the kids, like with the families who have 2 and more kids. Right? Once again, we are looking for the best. These won't be the only customers. These would be the best ever customers. It's the easiest to sell and so on. So that she's working on freelancing, not a full-time, likes road trips, family, white wine, and good girls type of series on Netflix. And that kind of combination, like you have to be able to describe, so it's easy to find them and talk their language. An ideal customer, it's not just one. I would suggest having like, I don't know, top 3, top 5 segments. We believe those, and those, and those. Like, for example, water, right? Even water, people do not buy the same thing, right? There are different people buying different products even. Mom will buy something for kids that's healthy, it's not unhealthy for kids, and look for different qualities of the product, size, and maybe the taste and so on. Then there's someone dying in the desert, probably he'll be much less picky, right? Doesn't care as long as you can survive. And then doing sports, then you're looking at water as a product a little bit differently. So it's not even person, like age, sex, gender, or location or something. It's the way people, this audience is looking at your product and what do they buy from you. And one day, this might be the top 1, top 2, top 3, top 4, and this is the ones we do not want to work with. But tomorrow, top 1 might be the different segment, because I'll show you next. You evaluate the segments. This is the best for today. This is the best for tomorrow, because let's say location or shipping, you had a new contract with a shipping company. Now you can deliver to new countries. Brazil was your ideal customers were in Brazil, but today you can't deliver, so it's top 3. You evaluate the obstacles that you can't get there, but you get a new contract, you get a new feature or whatever. Then you can sit down and see, okay, today, tomorrow, or today, this is our ideal customer, because right, everything else is as good for this, but there are some higher marks. And good example, one of the examples for positioning your product, even though let's say speakers, they're more or less doing the same job, right? They're making sound. But when you know your customer, then you can position and work and talk their language. I haven't highlighted here, but for example, if I wouldn't sell this way to the customers who are listening to the classical music, right? This is for gamers. I have this design, and I have this here, every detail, every position of your enemy. When you have a high performance magnetic drivers, and that's a feature. But the benefit is that they will hear the position of your enemy. So that specific audience values that really well, right? They know, they feel, oh, I've been there, I am there very frequent, I want to hear enemy. So you can have this change design and just sell, but it's a different, you sell a different way to different audience. Okay, and I'll go quickly through over this table of how I evaluate the ideal customers. I was reading Lincoln Murphy's blog, and I found it was more only SaaS-based product, but I improved it, let's say, make it more general for any kind of business. So you have those three segments, let's say, yeah? I want to sell water to moms, to sportsmen, and people who are dying in desert. Then you try to understand how well they understand the problem from 1 to 5. So the guys who are dying, probably it's 5, right? Others, okay, it's water, I need it, I can get it somewhere else, and so on, so on. Still, probably all of those three are understanding the importance of the water, how important is drink water, right? Then how frequently they actually get into the problem. This guy might not be dying every week, but at that specific point, he'll pay anything. And then you sort of evaluate how frequently they get into the situation, the sportsmen and moms or parents. Then you could evaluate how easy it is to access them, right? The guy in the desert, probably hard, find in that specific moment and somehow contact him and sell him and deliver. So that would be a low mark for him, but for others, I don't know, moms are sitting probably a lot of in internet, but the people who do sports and are interested in nutrition, they probably are searching for the information as well, how easy it is to sell, how long time it takes to sell to them, and business to business as well, right? You can sort of evaluate how long time it takes. Then if there are specific obstacles, I don't know, the guy dying in the desert again, it's hard to find the specific moment and ship somehow. There might be a reason, I don't know, you're selling online, but that specific audience might not use online payments so frequently or at all. I don't know if you've talked to the cars, let's say mechanics, right? Not all, but I don't know, that's my subjective thoughts, but they might not be so tech navy, so they're not using so frequently social networks and I don't know, some Google documents or something. So there might be some troubles using your service, right? Some obstacles. If they have money, as important, yes, no, how much, right? And as important when you talk to them to understand how good they are solving the problem at this specific moment. If for all of them it's a big problem, they should be solving one or another way already. And how good, what's the solution for the audience right now? They're doing it. The worse they're solving now, the better for you, right? So your solution will be much better. So you're looking for the biggest difference. All of these are like in extremes, right? And potential. Will you be able to sell them more or via them? Affiliate, reselling, so on, so on. Water, maybe gyms, right? Sport gyms, one segment, and there might be subcategories, what type of gyms. But again, you're selling once, but they might be the resellers, so the potential is bigger. Then you put all that one together, and you have the winner, right? For today. Tomorrow, you can reconsider these guys. I don't know why they're starting to get more money, but still, this was the only thing that made them second place. Now they're the first place. And this is no strings attached, let's say no feelings, the pure mathematics, right? Very often people do, you have to use this gut feeling, but it might be misleading. If you have two very close, I don't know, 29, 30, then of course you can pick the one you like better. But if there might be situations that I really love this segment, but the mathematics and the rationale says it's not the best audience for you at this specific moment. If you really like the segment in the future, you can work to make it better, right? Because you find a way to communicate better with them and so on, so on. So this was a short intro about finding ideal customers. You'll get to that one. But this is probably the most important part for any startup at the very beginning. Understand the problem. They understand the problem very well, meet the problem frequently. That's the ideal, right? Easy to reach, easiest to reach, no or less obstacles, has money or has more money, the most money, doesn't solve the problem very well now, or was the worst. It has the potential to buy more or help you to sell more. So that would be sort of combination of ideal customer. If they meet all of these, then it's perfect. And it should be easy. We're looking for you don't want struggles. You want to help people, but you want to, so it's easy. It's obviously it's not easy going now, but it's easiest and fastest route. Then you serve these the best. Then you get to the top 2, top 3, top 5, whatever. The whole world can be your customers afterwards. But this will help you to move faster forward, right? And it gives you a reality check. If you can't find the ideal customer, so it means, I don't know, something's wrong. You're not looking the right place, or you're just not solving it the right way, or there isn't such a problem. So, and when you do have this, at first you make a hypothesis, right? These might be our ideal customers segments. What's next? Interviews. MVPs, you have to get out of the room, because you won't get too much smarter staying here, and you have to talk. And I see people have a lot of problems talking, having those interviews, but it's like the very first MVP. You'll talk about MVP later, and I believe interviews is the first MVP for any project, because MVP, one of the definitions is you learn the fastest, the most, in less time with less resources, all right? So if you look at from that perspective, you go and talk. It doesn't cost you, and you just go and talk. So it's fast, cheap, and you should learn. And then you can build this make decisions based on those data you get. And interviews, when you work at the very first, probably you have to go out and talk. It's not a survey. I'll tell you later. And afterwards, if you have a software solution, then you might get a lot of data out of the how people to use your software, your solution, and then those might be the actionable insights you get out of that. But first, you have to go and talk. The best ever book regarding this topic is The Mom Test, a book by Rob Fitzpatrick. You can Google that one in YouTube search, and you in 60 minutes basically it explains everything. It's 64 pages, but it will completely change the way you look at the interviews, and it will help you to like how to talk to customers and learn when everybody is lying to you. So the main idea is you might get, if you're doing it wrong, you might get a lot of false positive and false negative. People might say yes, but they do not think yes, or they say no, but actually it's yes. So how to ask the right questions, super important, super easy, but it's like just slight change of perspective. And interviews are not surveys, right? Surveys you do a bit later, because interviews you don't know what you don't know, and you can read between the lines. You're not sure if the questions are right, so you adjust. You just talk, improve the questions, and then if you know, okay, we want to ask this specific audience these specific questions because we want to know it's a blue better than white, then that's a survey. But you do not do surveys at the very beginning. You go and talk because there's a lot of information between the lines. Main don'ts: do not sell. Go and talk about the problem. just ask, right? And it will be easy. When you think from that perspective, it's easier. And it's actually enjoyable to talk, as you can visualize already the solution, and you sort of give the hope to the people. Oh, there's a problem. Do not sell. You just talk about their problem. Do not ask all those, how do you like this product? Is it a good idea? You'll get a lot of false positive, false negative, right? Do you like this pen or whatever? He says yes, but he will never buy it in the shop because he just gave you a false positive. Will you buy that? What if? Ask, the main thing from the book was just ask questions from the past, right? How did you, what happened? What did you do? Because it will be harder to lie to themselves as well. If you ask, what would happen if you would do it? People are bad with that. They don't know how they'll behave. Keep in mind that maybe there isn't such a problem after all, right? It might happen. Maybe they're already solving it good enough. It isn't big enough to be solved. The problem isn't big enough. There is a problem. People say, yeah, but this is not the right customer. Don't fall in love with the product. I mentioned that one. Don't be afraid of changing the ideas, pivoting basically. So during these discussions, you might get quite cool ideas of new products, right? People say, yeah, this is the problem, but actually, if you could help me to solve this, that would be even better. So you could quickly swap, and that would be a bigger opportunity for you. So you're just looking. This is the data-driven decision making from Strategizer. That's another source of information I suggest following. They're quite cool regarding this innovation hypothesis. So you do the hypothesis to verify that you write down. I recommend writing down everything, right? In head, everything looks and sounds great, even your idea. Try to write it down, then it becomes harder. And here as well, this is what I think is truth, hypothesis. This is what I will do exactly this. I will measure this, and I'll be right if this happens. Just practice that one. It's awesome. I won't tell the milkshake story. You should probably just Google it. It's regarding these discussions and what is the actual job you're helping to achieve for the customers. So this, as you heard, this was probably the main topic, right? I could go in many more details, but we have two more topics. The startup life cycles. So the very first, most start with right away is this concept. You have an idea, you have many hypotheses, and you have to validate that there's an actual problem. There isn't good enough solution, and people are ready to pay for that. Then you build something, and you start segmenting markets, the market itself, and you see that different customers are might use differently your product. Then you work on price analysis and sort of adjust the price, right? And there was this saying, the price, you have to increase it until people start complain, and then you increase a little bit, and then it's the right price. If people do not complain, probably it's too low. They have to be like, oh, okay, but it's fine. At least some, right? Or you decrease a little bit, but pricing is another separate topic, really worth researching. Then you do the MVPs, minimal viable products, and improve them one by one, and analyze competitors, launch, have this really customer resonance, what's working, what's not. This is probably the repeatable part, right? Repeat, improve, test, and then scale and get to the break even and revenues, and hopefully exit successfully. But there'll be a few of those, right? Examples similar. You have an idea, you build the prototype or a minimal viable product. Then you try to find investments to maybe build an actual product. Depends on the product, right? Hardware might be harder and so on. Then you validate the existing already product, introduce to the market, like the broader markets, and then you're looking for another rounds of investments to grow and take off. Any of those points you can get to the very beginning. That something went wrong, be ready to pivot and start once again. Something similar, MVP, you search for the problem market fit, then your product market fit, which is the market, right? You find the problem, you find the solution, then you're looking for the right markets, the best markets, then you optimize the channels and how you sell through which channels and so on. And then you pour on the resources for growth. If you found to whom, how, when, you just multiply, right? By putting more in investing, injecting more money. And this is a little bit different. It's not just for startups, but I like this one. It's from Adiz's Institute, the company life cycles itself. It explains the whole cycle of the company, not just startups. But this is the very beginning of fair, when you just basically, there's an idea, nothing else. Then you come with a small product, something's working, something's not working. And go is basically this is where you experiment a lot, right? And you can die as an infant, like a kid. Infancy, then there's a go, you're growing up a little bit. And a lot of this, just for the future, a lot of companies in Latvia as well, they're stuck in this go, which means you have money, but you can't find a way to actually really expand globally and scale. As one of the reasons might be this founder trap, that you built something, but you do not know how to step back and give someone else like management, right, to take over and actually work on it. If you are the only key diamond for the company, it's quite a high risk. At one point, just be ready very frequently after the first rounds of investments from VCs. You might be asked to step back because you might not be a manager. You are a founder, you're creating things, you're motivate, inspire, but you're managing a larger company is a challenge, right? Okay, we won't go to this one. Actually, we are running over time, but I can have at least 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, you definitely have at least 10 minutes.
Okay, sorry, I really stuck into those topics, but let's go over those revenue models. We won't stuck to the business model, but revenue models is as important, right? You have to be able to explain and research what type of how you'll get the revenue. And there are different models, and it's quite a cool exercise that you can just go through. You have this sort of product, product, solution, and try to let's try this revenue model. Let's try this and just try all of those. There are like quite many, like 15 at least, and business models even more, right? 30 or something. Just try, how would it work like this, work like this? Just have this exercise. It's quite useful. It identifies which revenue sources to pursue and what value to offer, how to price the value, and who pays for the value is the key component for a company business model. They might be confused, this business and revenue models, but business model is something bigger. This revenue is a part of the business model, just one section, right? So the main ones, at least for the software subscriptions, software as a services. When you charge on a monthly or yearly basis, you have seen probably those, right? This is the monthly, and you have these subcategories. You can have a package, you can have a feature, you can have a transactional type thing, right? And depends on that one, you just sort of, you're paying monthly. This is quite cool. If you can get to that one, investors really values that type of revenue model, as it's predictable, right? You have customers, and if you provide the value, they stick to you and they pay you every month. So you can predict the revenues more or less. Markup would be when you buy and sell, you just put on top of it some percentage and make a profit margin of the original purchase. So it's wholesale retail, mostly, and Amazon as a retailer, they have like different products or services, right, in this marketplace, or just selling their own stuff. So when they're selling, buying and selling, that's more or less they just put in the 15%, as an example. The licensing involves renting goods or services to other businesses, and it's different from the software subscription. Is that their seller retains full control of copyrights on the product or service used by the buyer, but you just sort of buy and pay. You can pay, you sort of buy it as a license. You can have a monthly licensing, but still, it's more of a for patents, copyrights, and trademarks, like for example, software license agreement, right? for software companies, and you can have any Netflix type. If it's a marketplace, you might have like different revenue models. One is for the end customer, and you might have something for getting something from the business, and you might get something from the end customer as well. So advertising, basically, you have some sort of value traffic that turns directly into the revenue, and you are providing your platform to advertise on, right? Blog media sites, social media platforms, and so on. You might provide that advertising and get money out of that one. Affiliate is when someone else promoting referral links to your products and collecting commissions, or you are the ones actually referring and getting commissions. Etsy, Amazon's using for that. That's one of, again, right? They have different revenue models, and one of those is providing affiliates and telling blogs, if you help me to sell, you'll be my affiliate. Arbitrage is sort of speculating more or less playing in two different markets, same goods and service to make a profit. The currencies, you just two different markets, you quickly buy in one and sell in the other one, right? That's a fragile one, but if you're playing well, cryptocurrencies might have huge differences in different markets. And commissions is the one each transaction turns into revenue, and I'm the middleman charging commission for each transaction. A bit different from the opposite way, right? I do provide affiliate, but the other way around, I would say I can help you, and then I sort of, from my perspective, it's commission. On online marketplaces are doing. If you put your product in my marketplace, I get commission from that one. It's not affiliate. Data sales, if you can't see how the money is made, you're the product, right? So that's the selling to action. That's data selling in action. Google and different kind of list gatherers and contact owners can sell their own data, somehow gather and somehow sell. It's not just contact information, different kind of information regarding customers, potential customers. Okay, and business model describes the rationale of how an organization creates and delivers and captures the value in economic, social, cultural, other contexts. So the process of business model construction and modification is also called business model innovation. It forms a part of a business strategy, and you can innovate quite a lot specifically in business models. This is something that the biggest innovations are for the last not a century, right? But we're specifically in the business model itself. So what value proposition? What do you offer? How is the value proposition created? Value chain, how you deliver, and why is it profitable? So revenue models. And probably you have seen this more frequently. This is from the strategizer, right? And you have all these sections, and you explain the key resources. You have partners, structure, revenue stream. This is the part, right? Revenue models, how you get the money, which channels you'll be using, customer relationships. But you might have this one later on as well. And the financing, similar to the life cycles, not going into very detail, but basically, very beginning, you have this. It's not just pre-seed, but you can have even before that FFF, friends, fools, and family. When you're investing yourself, your parents, or anyone else who just feels lucky enough to invest in you and believes in your team and your why, right? Your mission, your vision. Afterwards, you can go to the pre-seed, like incubators, accelerators. There are different kind of accelerators. Some are investing a bit later on, but pre-seed when there's just a concept. And once again, you might have different amount of money in different regions, right? In Europe, a bit smaller. In Silicon Valley, probably everything's like they might be programming just for 6 months and they evaluate more than 1 million already themselves. Probably in Latvia, you won't get that valuation. Then seed, when you have this MEP and prototypes, then typical you raise. Still, in Latvia, seed is even smaller. I would say still something between 500 and 1 million. mostly typical valuation 3 and 10 millions. Then you have Series A later on, but you can have in between here, depending like more detailed, right? Those series growth, for example, seed and then growth and so on, depending on the terms, terminology. Then when you have found this product market fit, then you're raising Series A, and they're probably this is the venture capitals for sure, if it's a really high scalable startup. And Series B, C, D, whatever. Afterwards, work it at scale when it's just one. You have to have strategically some investments together in new markets or and so on. And the public, then you can go IPO or public, and you can have diverse revenue streams. Not sure about the specific numbers, depending again on the region and the markets. This is something similar, just to comment on why it's important, but that's, I don't know, you'll have about financing probably in more detail later on, yes?
Yes, it will be discussed a bit more in detail.
Yeah, okay. So the idea is how that's like an art, or there isn't one formula, but how you keep as much as possible, how you evaluate, right? And that's a tricky question every time, like how much should I give to the investor? But the idea is that every next round there's a high chance that you'll leave with less shares because they're investing more and more and more. So you should avoid giving too much of that too early. But I won't go to the Walmoo story. I just wanted to sort of, the story about Walmoo would include all of the things I mentioned with the specific examples. Get to them, but we won't do that. Okay. Yeah, I'll skip the story about Walmoo. But basically, yeah, that would be everything I said with specific examples. Okay. If you have any specific questions at this specific moment, or Paul, you have something in mind?
Well, I will have a couple of things to say, but I think we definitely should give the participants time to come up with questions or write them. Basically, to use the opportunity that we have you here on the stage, and we do have a couple more minutes. So please, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask them right now. You can either raise a hand and yeah, ask them verbally.
Or write in chat, yeah.
Exactly.
And even afterwards, maybe I'll join the Slack as well. So so you can ask there as well. Any top of mind not to do? Oh, I mentioned so many, I believe. But I mentioned this FOMO, which is related to trying to sell to everyone. So actually focus, learn fast and focus. If you'll try to, this FOMO, this fears of missing out, right? I mentioned already. I had this in high school. I had to be in every party. I just couldn't sleep. But it's similar here. You want to sell to everyone. And that might lead you to death, right? The company, as you can be, that I like this saying, you can be something to someone. That's the same relationship. You can't, but you can't be everything to everyone. Yeah, you can't be everything to everyone, but you can be something to someone. That's the same. Just find that specific focus and try to satisfy those customers. Don't try. We got the same. I had this. You see this picture of. This is what we built. We started with super simple loyalty solution. Every time we went to the customers, they just said, "Oh, that would be awesome," and that would be awesome, and we just kept building stuff. So it became. It's still not too complex, at least for us, right? It's simple, configurable, but it was too complex at that specific stage, and that didn't help us to focus. So we tried to sell to different kind of people, to different kind of retailers, our loyalty solution. So focus, I would say. Do not try to satisfy everyone. And another one, it is necessary to have more than one founder. I would say yes, it's a must. I didn't include that. And you will have about the team later on as well, right? Something.
Yeah, we will
not
touch upon
too-
the team, but it's going to be more closer to the end of the whole course. So
Yes, but still, it's unwritten rule for investors. You have to have these 3 H's: hustler, hipster, and hacker. So the hustler is the one, the founder, sort of selling and pushing and attracting people and talking. Hipster is the one thinking about customer experience and how do we look and brand position. And hacker is actually someone who's doing this stuff. So that's like the perfect combination of founders and start. And these investors will be looking for the team who completes more or less the whole competence is more or less needed, right? You need someone who's selling, you need someone who's making the product great, and someone who's actually making the product itself. They do not prefer the ones everything's outsourced. So, and another one I had in the story, that was probably actually one of the luckiest or happiest day for myself when I found my co-founder, Chris. I had this image because there's someone else actually going to sleep and thinking about the stuff, you know. Otherwise, if I stop, everything stops, and there's someone else actually sort of so passionate. And in our case, we were perfect fit. He was the hacker, the programmer, and another thing, try not to have the first initial team everyone with the same competencies. Not just you won't cover the whole needed, but you might have argue much often, right? Because everyone's an expert in that field. But here he's a programmer, I'm a seller, so he's doing his job, and I trust him, and he trusts me. So we didn't argue, like almost zero, right? Everyone just trusting between us, and he's doing his own job. So don't try to be 3 hustlers, then you might get problems. How important to have all skills and founders, how to get paid workforce when there is no money? Founders do not get paid then. that's the main idea. You invest your time. And ideally, that's why you have the hacker who's actually building. You can get to the point, then you can prove investors this is something that's working. We built it, we made it awesome. We're talking to the customers, and we are selling it already. So we need money to scale. We want to serve more customers. So we will need some customer service. We need more sales guy. We need more hackers, and so on. But ideally you are able to get to the point where it's actually working, right? And you can show traction. People use it, people love it, and ideally they pay for it. So, and you can get to that investing time only. So do not pay founders at the beginning, I would suggest. For starting a tech startup, how it is important to have required tech skills? Should we understand every detail of tech? No, we didn't understand a lot, so we made a lot of mistakes. More important is to get the right mentors. That's why you have these kind of programs. You get to the incubators, you go to the accelerators. You just approach people and ask. I had this awesome suggestion from the guy from Israel. I forgot his name. He's visiting Latvia once in a while. He's a huge ecosystem, this enthusiast. And he said, just go and find, let's say, if you need a lawyer, go for the best lawyers you can find and ask them to help. Give advice, nothing else. Very often the ones which are the best, they're passionate about the stuff and they love to help others, right? You might get some rejections, but when you get the yes, you get the best advice, and you can even ask him, can I put you in a LinkedIn or somewhere like in board of advisors? You'll get his name behind you as well. So just go to and approach the best ever people you can find and ask them, can you help me? Can you give me some advice? Very often those people, if they're good, they have a lot of money, but you came for advice and you might get money afterwards because they get to know you, they get to know the idea, And that's in the saying for the investment. If you ask for the money, you'll get advice. If you ask for advice, you might get the money. So that will be 2 in 1, right? You get good advisors, you get 3 actually. Good advice, good, I don't know, portfolio, whatever it will look, people behind you, and you might get money afterwards, because either they will have money or they know people who have money. So just go and ask and find the best experts ever and just learn, right? Learn fast. Hi, could you name 3 best learning tips? Oh, all of those were good. But the biggest fails probably were the best. Find the founder for sure, and you should align on very early on the values as well. As again, that was a lucky coincidence. Our values were the same. We both were this cause oriented, so on. And actually, that was our fail. We needed a third one who says, no, we have to get money today, guys, right? It's awesome idea, good vision, but we need money now. So we didn't have that one. and yeah, I would say have the full competencies, like founders with the same passion and values, and you covered the whole competence, the ones, but all you should be sort of more or less cause oriented, but there's someone who's like rational as well in the team. Focus, that was, as I said as well, I believe that's the main. We did a lot of customizations, went well. Get used to the money. Okay, it's not the best, but you have to get used to the money. As the first 50,000 I got, like, it's like a hot potato. We have to spend it somehow. So, but then you get used to it, and every time now you're sort of, I'm measuring myself how much money I can work with. When I see, I can visualize how can I spend like 50, right? At that point, 50 was then 100, then 50, 500, then million. Now I could operate like 5 million, something like 5 to 10 million. I see how I can rationally spend it, not just spend it, but I know how to invest it. Good. That's something just, I don't know how to practice. Probably you're lucky if your existing work, you're involved in large numbers, right? You have to use this 550,000. Otherwise you'll be, oh my God. And prepared the pitch. Yeah, this was one of the biggest fails. We went to Silicon Valley, and I was pitching, and we didn't get too much feedback on the pitch, or on the product, because the pitch wasn't explaining well enough what exactly we do, what do we serve, and we didn't have this ideal customer. We had platform, which is like a universal identification platform, which can be used in many different ways. So we had a lot of comments on the pitch itself, like in the first question, what exactly do you do, right? So that would be one of those. Don't waste your opportunities, your chances to pitch. Really practice it. And by I was improvising a lot. I'm sort of good in improvising, but it doesn't work here. Those 30 seconds, 2 minutes, it has to be like perfect. And the best I learned in Accelerator, we were practicing for 3 months. For the last 2 weeks, we actually had it like workshops, twice a day, and improve. You get the story first, so it makes sense and includes all the stuff needed. Then you practice the naming, right? How can you make it shorter, better? Then you know it by heart. And then you start improvising, because it's awesome story. Everything's said what you need. And then you can improvise by voice your lower and make pauses and make jokes. Some, like once in a while, you might change those in between, but it's only at the very, very end. That's the part of the improvisation, so it doesn't get boring to yourself. Okay, so no more than 3 founders. I would say that's like ideally, this 3H is enough. But if you have really good example, we need another researcher, right? Or that's the person who's, I don't know, had contacts or industry knowledge, something. You might get more. 3 is, as I've heard, the ideal. If I have MVP, how or where can I get investments? A lot of places. You get a lot of information about that one. So basically, money is not a problem, but you should be able to prove that it's working, right? You have to be able to explain that you know how to get there. do not show just like 3 billion market and we will take 3% of it. It just doesn't sound like, okay, how? So what are the next steps? How you'll get to the 3%? And this is, you have to be able, and now for the next 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, we'll be focusing on this, and we need this amount of money. This is what I'm looking for. You just show the vision, but you focus on, we know. We are doing this anyway, you're in or you're out, right? That's an opportunity for both of ours. Okay, that's ready to join venture or support. Okay, that's a cool question. Can a business skip a funding stage, for example? Yes, you can skip some stages, but that's a different topic about the funding. You'll discuss that you might. It might be.
Odd.
Odd. Suspicious, yeah, that you are not raising. As we had one startup, they said they were raising. They raised already one round, and now they're profitable, so they don't need money. And he said, I know that's a problem, because at one point, if you're not raising, so you're not growing fast enough, because you should be ambitious enough and fast enough. So it's always, you lack a little bit of money. If you're not raising something, people might think that's suspicious. They don't have ambition. They're not ambitious enough, right? If they don't need any money. But you might skip, but you shouldn't. There's another story about like how frequently and what amount of money you should. Cool to see the people coming there. Let's rock. Thank you for answering. Okay. Then I've answered all the questions so far, but I'll be on the Slack, so you can ask me anytime more.
So, and I think we are also running out of time. If I may, I'm gonna stop our sharing. I'm gonna add myself to the spotlight. I don't know if it's what everybody sees or not, but either way, first of all, thank you so much for this. Well, nearly 2 hours, and looking from the questions and the engagement from the audience during your story and your talk, I think it was interesting. I also join in the sentiment. Somebody wrote in the chat that it's too bad we didn't get to hear your Walmoo story, but we ran out of time. But yeah, I would have also, I've heard it a bit from Christian, I've heard it elsewhere, but yeah, still, it's always interesting to hear these stories. But yeah, as Guntis already mentioned, and he has joined us on Slack. So 2 things here. First of all, if you're not on Slack yet, please do that. I've sent the link in several emails, I think. So please join Slack, as that is quite necessary in order to finish this course. And yeah, the second thing here, Guntis is there. And if you have any further questions, feel free to write to him on Slack, and he will kindly give you the answers. And of course, as he also mentioned during his speech, that there are a lot of topics here in the life cycle of a startup, and there's a lot for you to learn. And we are going to cover it. Well, we'll try to cover it all, but of course, it takes a lifetime to learn everything. But we will do a crash course on all of these things during the upcoming weeks. And you probably, I hope you have already seen on the homepage the kind of the program of which date, which course is going to take place, lecture more specifically. And I will also post the updates on Slack. And there are going to be tiny changes regarding the subtopics of certain lectures, but I will post this on Slack. And also at certain point, I will, of course, inform you by email. But yeah, so that's why Slack is important. Most of the changes, announcements, and everything, updates are gonna come from Slack. So please be there and keep an eye out for that one. And yes, and that's gonna lead me back to the main topic I wanted to once more emphasize, is the fact that your first homework is to create the team. You have until this Friday, until 6 o'clock to form a team. As I wrote in the chat in the beginning, we had the question whether you can work with the team you already have outside of the How to Startup course. And the answer is yes, you can. In this case, then probably in the course, you're going to be alone. You're going to be single-handedly completing the homeworks and handing them in. But yeah, you can certainly work with your kind of outside team, but in the How to Startup, you're going to be alone then. If that's fine by you, cool, yeah, do that. Apart from that, please do use the team formation channel, post your ideas, doesn't matter how raw they are, you will work on them together during this course. Also, probably you will pivot, you might change your ideas, and that's completely fine. At this point, okay, I have a question. What will be homeworks? Well, the homeworks are going to depend on each mentor and each teacher. This week, the main homework is for you to create the team. So until Friday, you have to do that. After other lectures, the mentors will give you specific homeworks, which you will also have to complete by that week's Friday. So yeah, I can't really tell you yet what specifically each homework is going to be, but I can promise you that there will be homework. But it's not going to be anything too difficult, and you will work as a team on these homeworks. So basically, your team lead will have to hand it in to me, but you will work on it together. So that's another reason why forming the team is quite important and, well, helpful. And yeah, another thing, it's always a bit more fun to study together. Otherwise, when you're alone, it's, well, you can get tedious and boring. So yeah, form a team and enjoy the course and have fun. So I guess this is the main spiel I wanted to say and relay to you. And once more, thank you, Guntis, for joining us today and for giving 2 hours of your time. And then thank you to everyone who participated, who is here. And I will share the recording in the resources channel on Slack, among other things. So other useful things I will also share there. So once more, thank you. Form your team until Friday. I will check in on you during the week. And see you at the next lecture, I guess, and on Slack. So have a great evening and goodbye.
Thank you.